Alrighty, here we go. Hey everybody. How you doing? Hopefully well. Are we good here? I'm just seeing a black screen in the live preview. That can't be good. What's going on? Why is it black? Everything is fine on my end. Should be good. Is it just me? Or you? Oh, okay. There it is. The preview was glitched out for a moment, so it's not an actual problem. That's good. And there was like, oh no, come on now. Don't give me technical issues and turn me into a boomer. No, it's all good. So, let's hang out a little bit. Like I mentioned, the voice chat is going to be accessible to folks on the Elite Discord tier. And I'm going to... Oh, hang on. I actually need to set up the audio for that as well. Otherwise, you won't be able to hear who is on there. Normally, I would have done it already, but I've just been working on today's video just last minute because I just realized last minute that there was an editing mistake. There's a bunch of empty space with a clip all the way at the end that didn't belong in there. So I'm just gonna quickly fix that because that also needs to be published. But I'll be with you in a moment. I mean, I'm already with you, but you know what I mean. You get it. You're smart people. You signed up for my Patreon. You gotta be smart. So, yeah, we'll do that. I'm gonna make that render. And then I should probably... Yeah, there it is. This is where I have the audio capture for Discord. Supposedly, there it is, yeah. I am prepared. I just need to gather my my 3 brain cells and rub them together to create sparks and make a fire. The fire of passion or something. I don't know. Anyway. So I'm gonna hop on there. I see Blargdy is already there. Hey, how are you doing?
Doing okay.
No, that's about the
I had
best
to
you can
do
expect.
the conversion to your time zone. I'm like, wait a second.
Right, yeah. Pesky Atlantic time.
Yeah.
This should... Okay, there we go. All right. For a moment I was confused when I had like double audio input, but that's good now. Alrighty. Yeah, so, yeah, well, like I was saying, pretty much okay. It's just about the best you can hope for these days. It's just... It seems like it's getting worse every day. I constantly see people talk about how they're struggling, and no wonder in this economy and in this boring dystopia overall. And I'm also not doing as well as I used to, so yeah. Everything is a little bit messed up in some kind of way. But hey, it could be worse. It has been worse. It probably will be worse. So I guess we gotta enjoy what we have for as long as we have it, right?
Yeah, I suppose okay is pretty good considering, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, in some ways, most of what we're dealing with falls under first world problems in some kind of way, even if it's, you know, struggling with finances and all that. There are plenty of places in the world that are way worse off. Not that this alleviates the problems that, you know, we're dealing with over here, but perspective, I suppose. Right?
Yeah, I was watching this one documentary about the genocide in Sudan, West Sudan. And at the time, Nate and I had just finished the live action Avatar show, the Netflix miniseries. And we were complaining about its quality, that it wasn't super good. And then I watched that documentary, and there was government-sponsored, military-ordered systematic rape of every woman in order to impregnate as many people with their seed as possible. And then I'm like, you know
disgusting.
what? I'm complaining about some dumb show not being as good as I wanted, and there's people
Yeah.
who are getting gang raped and having their people killed.
Yeah.
Felt so shallow complaining about the Avatar movie or show. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. When put into perspective, a lot of issues are just absolutely non-existent. And, you know, there is a good approach to that. There is, like, you can think about these things and then think like, okay, why am I dwelling on something so trivial and getting upset about it? I might as well, you know, focus on the more positive. Because, like, the bad response to horrible things happening elsewhere in the world is to get depressed. I mean, it's totally understandable, but just focus on the negative. A better way to deal with that is to think, okay, that puts into perspective that this particular thing that I've been thinking about is trivial. I might as well just, you know, move on from that and focus on more important things and better things and all that. But for so many things, so many bad things happening, there's essentially nothing we can do about it, or very limited. You can do things like, you know, donate to charitable organizations. Even then, it happens all too often that it turns out that the charity actually didn't do shit with the money, or you know, a lot of it was wasted on administrative fees and a bunch of other bullshit. And there's so many scams. Like, but then beyond that, you know, what can you do? You can try to pressure politicians to take action on certain things, which, you know, they can just be like, no. How about no? I'm not going to do that. So, yeah, it's a mess. But I feel like a lot of the time, the best we can do, especially for people who deal with either various physical issues or psychological issues, or, you know, circumstantial, have their struggles of whatever kind, be it financial or a relationship or whatever. Sometimes the best you can do is just try to keep it together and try to maintain your own sanity as best you can, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like much, and it seems kind of bleak, but sometimes that's really all you can do. That's all you have the energy for sometimes, you know.
Just keep keeping on.
Keep on keeping on, yeah. That's the thing. That's that's what I'm always telling myself. Just keep going, you know, no matter how frustrating it is. This is another one of those examples, you know, like I struggle with the, you know, YouTube algorithm shit, and with how it gets harder and harder, you know, more and more work for less and less reward, and like it's nothing compared to what some people have to deal with. I'm fully aware of it. I'm definitely not one of those people who are like, you can't imagine how hard streaming is, or whatever. Yes, there are certain particular challenges. Every job has its own challenges. You know, whether you're working in the mines or you're confined to an office cubicle, it sucks either way, right? And even stuff like this, which is a dream job for a lot of people, it's not as sunshine and butterflies and roses as one might think. There's plenty of stresses, there's plenty of challenges and frustrations and all that. But at the end of the day, it's also important to stick to what you really want. You know, if there's something that you're passionate about, then, you know, even if you gotta drag your ass through it sometimes, it's still like, you still know that this is what you want to do, and you gotta fight for it. You know, that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Anyway.
Yeah, and having some bad parts doesn't make it bad.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make the whole thing bad. It just means that it has some bad aspects to it. I think part of it is more about it sucks to have had something and then lose it. Basically, you know, like if you used to do a lot better and then everything. There's just a certain psychological impact of putting more effort in and seeing less and less result, which doesn't I would argue doesn't usually happen in regular 9-to-5 jobs, but I could be wrong. I mean, in fact, I'm pretty sure I am wrong about at least some jobs, because some bosses are just pretty much cracking the whip nonstop and are pushing people to work more and more and overtime and this and that, and they barely compensate for it. So, yeah. As said, you got to put it all into perspective and realize that whatever issues you're dealing with could be a lot worse. It doesn't make them go away, but, you know, it makes it... You might get some mental fortitude from it, I suppose. If that makes sense.
Hmm.
I like that. The response is groan. Yeah, it makes sense. That's an appropriate response.
Yeah, more and more the worker is getting... working class is being more and more oppressed.
Yeah.
So, who joined?
Hello?
Oh.
Yep.
It-
It's
I've never heard
definitely...
you or seen you before.
I'm kind of new. Well, I've been watching the channel for 5 years, but I've only been an elite duelist for about 2.
Well, welcome either way.
Still 2 years. Dang.
Thanks for hanging out, by the way. Yeah, so definitely, like you say, the whole situation for like mere mortals, shall we say? You know, the working class, and I suppose what used to be middle class, that is not really much of a thing anymore. There's a lot of struggle going. I don't want to get too political here, but you know, because we're already talking about everyday struggles and whatnot. I mean, it's kind of nuts, and this ties in with you know, the whole patron and then YouTube members thing. Like, I really, really appreciate the support that you people are giving me, because it's pretty much what keeps me going here, in the sense of I wouldn't be able to do it anymore otherwise. Because at this point, YouTube has gone so much downhill for me that I make as much ad revenue as I used to 10 years ago in 2014, where my channel only just started to pick up the pace. And at that time, we were paying like $800 for a 2-bedroom apartment rent. The prices have literally doubled now. So, and everything, like food and everything, has absolutely exploded. It's gone crazy. So yeah, it's kind of garbage. So yeah, I appreciate that, not only for that reason, but also because I know that it's the same for everybody. I said, all mere mortals, you know, who are not filthy rich. I know that you're all dealing with the fallout of that. So that makes me appreciate even more that you're willing to support me. So thank you.
Yep, happy to help.
Happy to accept the help. Because, yeah, so at this point, it is definitely necessary. I still don't really know what happened. I mean, it's been a slow process over the years where, you know, like basically after 2021, I saw kind of a steady decline. But at the start of this year, it's been even worse than that. Like, it seems to be getting worse at a faster pace, I suppose, and I keep just trying to push against it. And okay, more videos, better videos, you know, better topics, you know, more quality, more everything. It doesn't do shit. I mean, it sort of slows the decline, but I don't know what the hell to do. But anyway, as said, perspective. It could be way worse. I'm still doing what I love, so there's really only so much complaining I can do, and I shouldn't anyway. But it is what it is, you know.
Well, sometimes complaining isn't really an issue. Like, it's a problem if you're like annoying people with it and you're not annoying me. And it can be a problem if you're overly negative and like all you can think about is the negative and you never see the positive.
Yes.
But I was watching a video by Veritasium where they studied what makes people live longer, and they found that being married increases your age, how long you live, because of having somebody to deal with the stress for you, and then you lower your cortisol, and having less stress makes you live longer. So, you know, complaining helps. So it's literally letting you live longer. So
yeah,
I think you should be able to complain.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess venting is kind of a thing in some ways, but not just venting, but also, you know, just being able to confide in someone, and also having someone that you're not alone in dealing with these things. You get support. I can't imagine, like, if I wasn't happily married, I would be in a rough spot right now. It would be, even so, I've definitely gone through phases lately and keep doing it where, you know, kind of the old depression starts creeping back up and wants to take over, and I gotta fight it. And it wouldn't be as successful without that kind of support. But it is important to really try to actively fight it, because not to rag on the dude again, but someone like Boogie is a good example of what happens when you give in to it. And, you know, giving in is kind of a bad term, because clinical depression is rough. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to stop feeling depressed. It doesn't work like that. But you can still try to resist it to the best of your ability, because if you give up, it just keeps getting worse. The downward spiral intensifies. And I sure have plenty of moments where, you know, I have that impulse. I feel like I just want to give up, you know, particularly when it comes to fixing myself, you know, health-wise and diet and exercise and all that. Sometimes it gets so difficult that it seems like it's never going to happen. But, you know, so far I've managed to dig myself out every now and then. Oh yeah, if you've seen the video about the trial at the boxing gym and the resulting being completely sick and messed up for a week. Yesterday I went back there and I did sign up, and hopefully I'm not going to get sick right again. That would be ridiculous. But definitely committing to it. I didn't want to, in a way. Like, it's always hard to drag yourself out of the door and go there, right? That's the hard part. But then when I was there and did the workout, it was pretty damn good, actually. It is fun, legitimately, and it's a good workout.
Oh, that's good.
Full body workout.
Were you?
Go ahead.
Were you as physically tired this second time now?
No, I wouldn't say I was. I mean, there were also a bit more breaks this time. The class went a little bit differently than before, so it wasn't quite as nonstop. That may also have to do with it. But yeah, it's really pretty cool how much of a full body workout that is, because like I'm always surprised how much I feel my back muscles afterwards. It's not something you would think of, but every time you hit the bag, it just the back muscles have to brace against the impact because it goes both ways, right? So it's surprising how much of a even back workout you get from that.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect it to be a back thing, but
Yeah.
it makes sense.
I mean, sure, it's mainly arms and chest and core, definitely core, but back also quite a bit. In fact, the first time I might have pulled something, like the what's it called again, serratus, I think, like the abdominal muscles that go to stretch over your side. And it went away, but then after yesterday, now I feel it again. So it's, yeah, definitely something that I'm going to have to condition my body to be able to handle long term. But yeah, it adapts eventually. I'm seeing the chat is starting to fill up. Let me see, what are you folks saying? Self-care feels like treading water sometimes. Yeah, it can. It definitely can. Ex-CEO of Reddit, Ellen Powell, mentioned about 5 years ago that there are serious issues with ad revenue models. It's complex, but a lot of it has to do with the switch from people using computers. Oh, you mean like more phone use? Yeah. And I don't know about this whole shorts shit that YouTube pull to try to compete with TikTok. For one, you can't really. I do feel like TikTok has sort of a monopoly on short form content at this point, and it seems to be interfering with long form stuff as well, and also it doesn't carry over. I think some people like Cell Sword Arts, for example, have built the channel based on shorts and have like 1 million subscribers or whatever, but then longer videos get like 15K or so, if that. Yeah, I should have continued reading. You did say switch from using computers to people using mostly smartphones. Yeah. Reliable viewer counts are harder to track with smartphones. Oh yeah, good point. Didn't realize that. Which means we are officially in the age where big tech companies are boomers who can't adapt to new technology. That's great. Hey Scott, the hunch posture when you're in guard can be hard on the back too. Good on you for trying something new. I wouldn't call it hunched really, because it's more like you tuck your chin in and bring your shoulders up, and when you roll, you just kind of bend at the hip, like you hip hinge the way you do in HEMA as well. So the spine is supposed to stay mostly straight. But yeah, it's definitely full body and mainly core. I can tell that much. Good afternoon from Scotland. Alrighty. It's let me see. It would be 5 hours ahead, I believe. It's 1:25 over here now. Yeah, so sometimes you just gotta find something that you can stick to. In terms of exercise, which can be pretty difficult. Like for me, it's basically hitting things is fun, but lifting is boring as hell. Most cardio is boring as hell. But I feel like I should probably get back into like a 5x5 program again for lifting heavy, because that's how you increase your bone density, by loading your bones with a significant amount of weight, and enough weight that you can only do about 5 reps. That should definitely do it. And that should combine well with the cardio from boxing workouts. I just gotta get myself to do it consistently. Consistency is key and also difficult. What are some basic exercises to start off with? What do you mean, weightlifting or like exercise in general? When it comes to weightlifting, basically what's called the king of exercises is the deadlift, because it does it all, essentially. Unfortunately, it's probably my most hated exercise, because I've spent so much time in the gym trying to figure out the goddamn form and like looking it up over and over again, looking at a bunch of different demonstrations and explanations for how to do it properly, and I kept injuring or tweaking my lower back. And even if not, it just feels weird to me. It might have to do with my ankles, because I have my ankle mobility is pretty crap. I keep working on that and stretching, but it's slow progress. So I tend to prefer sumo deadlift. It's like you have a wider stance, and then you have the arms like. No, let me explain it differently. Your toes are pointed outward more, and the stance is much wider, and your grip is narrower. That's what I was trying to say. Seems to work better for me. Okay, let me see here now. Yeah, I just uploaded the corrected version of the video, so that should be all good. It's by the way, it's about a sort incident at a school. I don't know if you saw that in the news, where a teacher thought it would be a good idea to bring real swords to class and hand it, like a rapier and a katana, and hand it to the students, and it's like, have at it. And injury ensued. Surprise, surprise.
Haven't heard that one before, but that sounds like a really dumb idea.
Oh, yes. And the way she handled the aftermath, or basically didn't, it's even worse. Actually, I have to double check it anyway before publishing. Do you just want to watch it together? Because I have to watch it anyway now.
Sure.
We can just watch it all together before I publish it. How about that?
Yeah, if we start a stream, we can watch that on Discord. Or are you going to put it on the YouTube side of things?
I'm just gonna put it in the stream, just overlay it in the stream here.
Okay.
That should do it. Let's see here.
Don't know how I'm gonna do the sound. Because if I press play on this video on YouTube mobile app, I'll hear myself. So I guess I could just deafen myself in Discord. Maybe. Yeah, that could work. Yeah, I'll deafen myself in Discord.
Okay. Let me turn the volume on here, and that should do it. The vastness of the universe is unfathomable. There's only one thing that can rival it: human stupidity. So 2 days ago, I put up a video discussing a hypothetical fight between a rapier and a katana. Little did I know that a week ago, a news article came out about an incident that happened 2 years ago of just that. which is the most irresponsible sword-related accident I've ever seen. And this is after having talked about dudes who spar with sharp blades and remember that bullshit? That's still one of the most ridiculous things. Various people doing test cutting in the dumbest possible way. At least they inflicted it upon themselves, rather than being coerced by an authority figure. So this is what happened. A teacher at a high school in Albuquerque, New Mexico thought it would be a great idea to bring real swords to a chemistry class to teach a lesson on metal, and that resulted in a permanent disability for one of the students. Should have just played a video of a Metallica concert. So the teacher told, I know, terrible joke, but I couldn't resist, students to make space in the middle of the classroom, and I imagine was like, it's time for... Yes, so let me remind you, these are real swords. Apparently sharp, not blunted. I mean, I'm guessing the rapier didn't have a sharp point, because one of the two keeps getting poked and wasn't injured, supposedly. If this had been done responsibly, that would have been great. I mean, at that age, I would have been thrilled to see the teacher walk in with some swords and be like, hey, here you go, try it out. But responsibly, there's the emphasis. It needs to be blunted swords without sharp tips, and they need masks and gloves. Even then, it would be questionable to just let untrained teenagers slash and stab at each other. But this is just on a whole different level, and at a time too when there's much more information about this stuff. You know, HEMA is not super niche anymore. It's reasonably well known, and blunt practice swords are pretty easily available, as are various padded buffers, even Nerf swords. There's so many things you could have done instead that would have been perfectly safe. I'm surprised a rapier blade didn't end up in someone's sinuses or eyeball. One of the students ended up being cut in the wrist with a katana, severing nerves and tendons. I hope YouTube's gonna be fine with this. I mean, it's super blurred out, but oh no, there's like a pixelated, blurry red spot. Who knows? After surgery and extensive physical therapy, reminder, it's been 2 years, there's no full recovery. There's still a loss of mobility and sensation in that limb. As crazy as all that already is, just wait until you hear how the aftermath was handled. Hey, sorry to bother you. I know you just want to watch the video, but it would really help me out if you... That's basically just a segment where I, I've asked people to subscribe and like, which I hate. But I know it's necessary, and, I also thank you people for supporting me. So, quality of my videos, and make something that you can think of that I could do better, please let me know. And also special thanks to my YouTube members and patrons. You really make a difference. Okay, so after the student had the wrist sliced open and was feeling faint and nauseated from blood loss, guess what the teacher did? Call 911? Nah. Provide first aid? Nah. How about... say, I'm in trouble, and tell the students to delete the footage that they just recorded. How about that? And try to call the medical office of the school instead of 911. The paramedics were eventually called after half an hour. If that happened in Nova Scotia, it would take another 2 hours for the ambulance to arrive. Yeah, I misremembered. It's more than 2 hours. The reason I find this even more irresponsible than the other crap I've talked about is that this is supposed to be a safe environment. I mean, it is an American school, but usually students only have to worry about getting shot and not stabbed or slashed by a sword. I know, it's dark to joke about tragedies, but that's kind of the point of cynical humor, to deal with the horrible things happening in the world. Sometimes people cope by laughing instead of crying. Anyway, I'm sorry. I added that commentary because somebody actually complained quite verbally about another dark joke I made. I think that one was about American cops shooting everybody. So, yeah. Sorry that the student had to go through this. It's terrible. You shouldn't have to suffer permanent damage from somebody else's stupidity. Even if you do something stupid on your own, you don't deserve to suffer from the consequences for years, or even the rest of your life. Apparently the surgeon said that during the surgery they could feel the mark the blade left on the bone. And this is from what I imagine would be a fairly casual hit, as opposed to a committed cut from a trained swordsman. Goes to show just how dangerous unarmored dueling with swords would have been in history. As sad and unfortunate as this incident is, it could have been worse. Somebody could have died. So this is another reminder to not mess around with swords and treat them like toys or any weapons. That includes tools as well. There are plenty of tools that are way more dangerous than a sword, especially power tools, that can cause absolutely horrendous injuries. And this is just nothing to be trifled with. There's plenty of safe alternatives available. Anything from, said, blunt steel swords or synthetic practice swords for historical martial arts practice to, said, Nerf swords and various padded buffers. There's so many ways to do this. And also protective gear. Once again, I have to implore everyone watching, if you want to try out historical martial arts or mess around with swords in any way, use protection. That also applies to teenagers messing around in other ways. Use protection. Fencing masks and gauntlets are mandatory. Even for drills, put them on. It's all too easy for someone, especially a beginner, to slip up and end up putting the point in someone's face. Also, get proper gloves that are protective enough. Hockey gloves, lacrosse gloves, and any designs that are based on those are fine for lighter single-handed swords, but for heftier blades and swords used with two hands like longswords and katanas, you need something that really keeps your fragile fingers safe. The Spez heavy gloves are a standard option. They're not the most comfortable, but they do protect. Because the fingers aren't separated, you have this clamshell that spreads the force across the entire surface. It doesn't concentrate it on individual fingers. Much safer. And control. There's no need to bash each other as hard as you can. If your practice partner does that, tell them to ease up and be safer. Sometimes people are just not aware of how hard they hit. And if they don't, find a better training partner. And finally, just one more thing to lecture about, don't hit people in the back of the head. Okay, this is where most fencing masks are weak, and that's also a particularly dangerous part to be struck in. You have some brain areas responsible for keeping you alive in the back of your head, so chill out on that. And if you can, please seek professional instruction. There are so many ways you can mess up that you wouldn't even be aware of. So don't take this lightly, alright? Don't be deterred either. Practicing historical martial arts is good fun exercise, and sword collecting is an enjoyable hobby. Things can go wrong, and safety is important, but that's true for a lot of fun activities. Just about every sport. Traveling, car driving, participating in the economy. Just because it can have certain risks doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Just don't be stupid about it. Anyway, hope you found this instructive. Thanks for watching, and take care, folks. Stay safe. Alrighty. Yeah, what do you think? So there are no more editing errors, so I can just set it up for publishing. It's always the tedious part. You know, I've already gone through it in editing, and this is like the third or fourth time that I have to watch it, and it's kind of remarkable how annoying it is to look at yourself and listen to yourself for hours. But yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, I thought it was a good video.
Thanks.
I am a fan of school shooting jokes. Well.
Yeah, I mean, how could I not? Yes, it is in poor taste, but, you know, sometimes humor kind of has to be. And, you know, the thing is, what makes humor funny, to a large extent, is that it's real. You know, it points to something that actually happens, and, you know, maybe exaggerates, but it's kind of the point. You know, if the joke doesn't relate to real life at all in any way, then it's just not as funny.
Yeah, I think anything can be made fun of as long as it's funnier than offensive.
Yeah,
So if you were to go to a funeral of one of the school shooting people and being like, "Hey, America,
Yes.
love your school system," that'd be kind of like, dude.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I think that was a very acceptable joke.
Yeah. It's definitely a matter of situation. Well, context, as Matt would say. But definitely, yeah. The thing is also, as a general guideline, I feel like it's if you wouldn't make the joke with people present who are affected by it, then maybe don't. Which this is already pushing it. Like, if would I make this joke in front of the parents of a kid who was shot? No. So this is already a little bit questionable, but at the same time, I think it's more valuable when there's a substantive critique in it, you know? When you're pointing to something that shouldn't be like this. And also, part of it is punching up rather than down. And now, in this case, a school shooter is not exactly higher in the hierarchy, but punching up in the sense that it's scum, you know? Like, it's not somebody who had less opportunities than you or was oppressed in some kind of way. It was somebody who tried to gain power over others in a heinous, unethical way. So, fair game.
Yeah, and it's for a system that should do better.
That, yeah, definitely.
So you're not being like, oh, look at those
Yep.
religious people believing in God, la la la. It's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
that wasn't any critique of anything they did or do, but
Right.
you know, saying that children should be safe is, well, I think it's fine to make fun of
Mm-hmm.
the powers that be not being able to protect those who should be protected.
Mm-hmm.
But that's politics, sorry.
Yeah. On a more positive note, Scott is saying just had his first TEMO tournament in ages last weekend. Nice. That was run by Chad Herbert, if you remember him. Oh, yeah, of course. And had pretty big attendance, actually. That's awesome. Nice. I did terribly, but it was longsword, so I wasn't expecting much. It's mostly to support friends. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be like in the top 3 or whatever. Just you know, just for the event. It's a good experience. You know, it's a good way to pressure test what you've learned and how you've practiced, and you know, you can have fun talking to people about it and watching others compete and all that. They learned a lesson about metal and the properties of metal. I mean, yeah. Maybe this should have been reserved for, I don't know, first aid class. What were the legal consequences for the teacher in school? The teacher does not teach anymore, and there's a lawsuit going on. I don't know if the school is liable too, but the teacher definitely is. I kind of doubt that the school itself is.
It's probably just the teacher.
Yeah, I would think so, because, like, yes, the school is supposed to hire teachers who are trustworthy, but you can't always tell. Like, sometimes somebody suddenly does something really stupid and there was no indication that they would. So, yeah, this is 100% on the teacher. There's just nothing else to be said. Nobody else is that much responsible for what happened. Even worse, you know, trying to cover it up afterwards. Yikes.
That's shitty for the kid who got his arm sliced up.
Yeah.
So really lost in all this. Sorry, go ahead.
My brother got his arm cut by the sword in my profile picture.
Oh, wow.
He was using a buffing wheel to polish it for me while I was getting the Hacker Blade show. The way he was holding it, wheeled around in kind of like a circular cut onto his wrist.
Mm.
There was a lot of blood. We got into the ER. He made a full recovery.
That's good.
But it's an interesting story, and kind of put it into perspective. A light cut on wrist.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of blood going there.
Yeah, it can bleed a lot. The same way as, any kind of cut to the face or the head usually tends to bleed like crazy. But yeah, I'm glad that there was a full recovery. That could have ended a lot worse. That's one of the ways in which you can quite easily get injured by when sharpening, especially when dealing up with a belt sander. Those can be vicious. They sometimes, they rip the blade out of someone's hands and it goes who knows where. What was the one? Cause I remember seeing a video of a guy who I think was working with a belt sander, and something broke and a piece flew right in his face and ended up stuck in his glasses, like safety goggles, and he was just very glad to have worn them.
I've seen one like that.
Yeah, that's nuts. That'll definitely make you never again forget to put on safety goggles. Unless you're scatterbrained. Sometimes I catch myself. I'm about to start and I'm like, oh, hang on.
Working on the electrical wiring in our new house here. I've shocked myself with live voltage, 3 times, and
yikes.
Now, after all those times, now I'm in the habit of, okay, check if this circuit is live with my little BB meter. Yeah, because I accidentally welded some copper onto my pliers that I was using to straighten the wires out after I removed the insulation. So, that was fun. So I get scatterbrained shit because I'm like, fucking damn it, why did I not check that?
Yeah, I know that. Here's a really dumb story that I haven't told. For one time, I was in the workshop when we still had it, and what was it? I think it was wood finishing spray. I think like some kind of lacquer or finish, clear finish. And so I'm looking at the thing, I'm spraying, and my dumbass didn't realize that the nozzle was turned, so I sprayed it straight in my eye instead of on the thing, and I wasn't wearing glasses like an idiot. So immediately just ran the house and then washed the hell out of my eyeball, which was fine. There was no damage or anything, but holy hell, that was hilariously dumb.
Yeah, it's like
not so much dumb, just inattentive. I did not notice which direction the nozzle was pointed in. But yeah. Oof. I mean, at least it was clear finish and not the actual paint. Just imagine like spraying like black paint straight in your eyeball or whatever. Oof. It's not healthy either way, but it could have been worse. Yeah, Scott is saying the school is one of the parties being sued. Okay. So the school is held legally responsible as well. Oh, okay. Well, I suppose it makes sense because the school is the employer, but in this case, I don't know. If there were any red flags that they just overlooked or whatever, then sure. But otherwise, I'm not sure they should be necessarily. But I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
Maybe if we look deeper into it, we'd see.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you can. Like, lawsuits like that are accessible to the public generally. Okay, I gotta add some more tags to that video. Let's see. That's also always the part that I hate, like description thumbnail tags. Ugh. And it makes all the difference. If they are off, it can be an excellent video, but it'll still underperform if shit's not tweaked just right. And I don't know exactly how to tweak it just right. Like, I have certain understanding, but the problem is they change it constantly. So what used to work 2 years ago probably doesn't anymore. So, oh well.
Something I find odd is that usually if someone has proper sharp swords, they know more about swords than that. And otherwise they just have some kind of wall hanger.
Yeah, right. That is kind of weird. And the picture of the katana in the news story actually looked like a functional one rather than a wall hanger. Can be a bit hard to say, but that didn't strike me as like a typical mall ninja thing. Didn't see any detailed pictures of the rapiers. I have no idea about that one. But yeah, you would think if somebody has something like that, then maybe they have a bit of an idea. But clearly not. It's just, it boggles my mind to just, what makes you think you can just hand teenagers sharp blades and just... I will never understand that kind of thought process. If you give them buffers or whatever, it's like, okay, yeah, they might still manage to hurt each other because, you know, teenagers have more energy than they have sense, but come on. This is just wild.
Yeah, their brains aren't fully developed, but the teachers should have been.
Yeah, right? That the teacher has a fully developed frontal cortex, so there should be critical thinking ability, but no.
I've been surprised at how many people I've seen that don't seem to have grown up in ways I think they should have.
Oh yeah. Sometimes it's astonishing, like how somebody who's middle-aged or like in their 50s or 60s or whatever can be borderline infantile sometimes, you know, both when it comes to critical thinking ability and also just general demeanor, you know, like certain politicians that shall not be named. But it's just, you'd think this idea that you gain wisdom with age, it's a nice idea, but sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes people just cement the horrible ideas and beliefs they have. And, of course, on top of that, the older they get, the more they think they know everything. I feel like there's a bit of a curve where, you know, as a kid, you don't have any illusions of knowing everything. But then as a teenager, you think you know everything, got it all figured out. Then that tapers off as you get more experience. You realize more and more how much you don't know. But then there might be another spike as you get old when you get on the high horse and you think, I have life experience, I know everything, I've figured it all out. And then, you know, dementia hits and who knows where that goes. Gaining wisdom and using it different, I suppose. But I don't know, if you have wisdom, wouldn't you want to use it? And wouldn't you know how to use it? Well,
seen many instances of people being told something, and then they just go about their life as if they've never heard it.
Yeah. Yep. I always love this when people talk about science and evidence and everything, but then they only accept it if it happens to confirm their beliefs. If it runs counter to what they think, then no, fake study. What do those experts know? But when said experts seem to find something that they agree with, and it's like, oh yeah, science. Like, come on. The science of cherry picking, that's what it is. It would be easier if there weren't always, for every study that shows one thing, if there weren't always another 3 that contradicted. But that's just the nature of reality. It's complex, and it's kind of the best we can do to try to figure shit out. It doesn't always work.
Or it'd also be nice if it was upfront shown who sponsored it.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I guess things just take a little while.
It's also the difference between clinically studied and researched. Clinically studied means somebody paid to have the research done.
That's true. Yeah.
And studied is supposed to be more there. But it just goes to show you that it's very difficult to make concrete statements about something. This thing is bad, this thing is good.
Mm-hmm.
It so much depends on exactly how they did it. The study design is so important. So when people say, hey, look, this study showed this, yeah, well, the sample size is like 5 people.
Right.
And they didn't do it right, so like it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, small sample size is definitely. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It depends.
Yeah, it depends. Small sample size is a problem, and sometimes also correlation versus causation. That whole thing where that's always the difficult part in trying to figure out nutrition and all that. Like if you look at a certain population that eats this or that or whatever, and there's always the question, okay, is this what's causing the mortality rates or the whatever, obesity, whatever it may be, whatever factor you're looking at, or is it another contributing factor that you're not considering? Like for example, I don't know, Mediterranean diet, for example. Like, why is it that it's tends to lower mortality rate? Some people say it's the olive oil. Other people say it's the high intake of fiber and vegetables. Others say it's whatever, low meat or whatever it is. Like this, it's hard to figure that out, especially considering that different populations may also respond to the same thing differently. Like some may be genetically more susceptible to heart disease than others when exposed to certain environmental factors, be it food, be it pollutants, be it lifestyle, whatever, right? There's just so much that goes into it.
The biggest takeaway I see from any nutritional study is that healthy people have a varied diet.
Mm-hmm.
And the variety is important. You can't just drink anchovies and olive oil and expect that to work, because olive oil may be important in doing some things to some people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also processed food. I saw a a study just recently that looked specifically at processed food consumption and found an increase in, I think, all-cause mortality and cancer risk as well. Question, of course, is always what's processed? How processed is processed? Because something as simple as grinding flour is technically processing wheat, right? But usually what they mean is part of it stripping away nutrients, like stripping away the fiber, for example, or adding stuff like preservatives. And they weren't entirely sure exactly what's causing it. They were speculating like it might be things like preservatives and whatever, pesticides, who knows what. But it could also be something else. It's something, because sometimes it's about what you take away and sometimes it's about what you add. So hard to say. And then it's hard to say exactly, as I said, how processed is heavily processed.
Being from the United States and visiting Europe, I could really tell a difference in the food there.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed much more natural.
Yeah. The food quality generally is higher in Europe. I do have to say that for sure. There's more regulation, and also things like bread, for example. Part of the problem apparently here is that in Canada, and I'm assuming it's the same in the US, you don't have to be a baker in the sense of the trade. You don't have to learn the trade to open a bakery. Like you just gotta pass food regulation, whatever. But anyone can just make whatever. Whereas in Europe, it's a certified trade, so you actually need to know how to do it correctly. And yeah, it shows. A lot of the bread that you get here is of questionable quality.
Food is just so much better in Europe. And sorry to dunk on Americans, but even the food in America was so much worse than in Canada. Like I was shocked at how big the difference was. Yeah, it just felt like eating junk food, even though it wasn't junk food. Felt like I was eating at McDonald's, even though I was having a home-cooked meal.
And even McDonald's, like the quality of the meat at a European McDonald's is higher than the pink slime stuff you get in the US, right?
Yeah. I asked I think it's the aunt of my sister-in-law. We were staying at her place in Utah, and they had only terrible bread. And I'm like, can you buy like some dark bread that's like not shit? And they came back with a quote-unquote rye bread. But I looked at the ingredients. It had like 5% rye, and it was super soggy and didn't have a crust. And I'm like, yeah, no, this is horrible. How do they have such bad food? But obviously it's 1 week of food from one city in America.
Right.
It's definitely not indicative of everything.
Small sample size. I wonder if countries like France have tighter regulations on food because they take the cooking culture so seriously. I have a counter argument to that. The UK. They also have more regulation, but their food is horrible. But like the dishes that they make are questionable. But I feel like the food ingredients are probably still higher quality.
When I got fish and chips, there was this kind of pea sauce, like peas in a blender, and I don't know. I was expecting ketchup, but
right. Actually, one thing I do have to say, we have a British import store here that opened just recently. You know, they have all kinds of British groceries, and that stuff, it's not better than Canadian stuff. In fact, some of it is arguably worse. So I don't know if the UK is just a bit of a difference there overall, but they should have they should have stricter regulations on food, I think.
Higher quality food would be nice.
It would
I
be.
wouldn't mind more regulations.
And also subsidies, because I know that Ireland, for example, doesn't. I don't quite remember if they don't charge tax on food items at all or just lower. Either of the two, but the food is substantially cheaper than it is over here. I mean, food prices in Canada have gone completely nuts. They're just obscene at this point because, you know, the big grocery store chains are just like, well, where else you gonna go? Like they just you know, all ramp up the prices and then blame it on inflation, but they're basically fueling inflation by just increasing their profit margins. They don't care. Either increasing or being unwilling to, you know, accept that they need to come down a little bit, because like, no, you can't possibly pay the CEO less than millions, right? It's like, I mean, like, at this point, it's really hard to find anything at the grocery store that costs less than $3. You know, it used to be possible, but now, occasionally you can find something on sale for less than $2, but, and of course also the sizes are constantly shrinking. Good old shrinkflation, where, you know, people keep posting pictures of that. Look at this shit. It's like, it used to be like 260 gram bag, and now it's 190 for the same price or more. Yay. Good old corporate greed. Yeah, good point, Scott. Hit up the local farmers markets as much as possible. I agree. It used to be that the farmers markets used to be significantly more expensive, but now they're either equal or cheaper on the produce. And it's better quality too. So yeah, it actually makes sense to go to farmers markets. Absolutely. I'm also happier to support them than the greedy ass chains.
It's also better for the economy, I've heard, because the money kind of stays in the community and doesn't go somewhere else.
Yeah, good point. Buying local is always good whenever possible. Yeah. When it comes to grocery stores, it's just lesser evil kind of thing. You know, like I used to try to avoid Walmart because, you know, Walmart is a known evil corporation, but I don't know, at this point, it seems like Superstore and Sobeys are even worse. And definitely more expensive, significantly. I mean, Costco seems fine. From what I hear, they treat their employees a lot better, and their prices are also way better, so there's that.
Yeah, but the sizes you have to buy is kind of dumb. My friend sent me a picture from Costco a couple days ago, and it was a package of Irish Spring soap, but it was 20 bars, and I'm like, what? Who's going to buy 10-year supply of soap?
Yeah. It's not toilet paper, so people don't want to hoard it as much, huh? But yeah, a lot of the stuff definitely makes sense to get there. Like protein bars, for example. And those are not even huge boxes. They are quite a bit cheaper there. Produce also tends to be better priced there, and then you don't have to get huge amounts either. The thing is, what Superstore and also Sobeys, Sobeys is less guilty of that, but especially Superstore, I find they do the 50% sales for stuff that expires soon, and you when it comes to produce, just don't even touch it, because they try to sell you like literally rotten fruit for 50%. There's literally mold on there, or like the avocados are all mushy, and when you cut them open, they're moldy inside, and it's gross. It's ridiculous. They're just like, okay, we have to throw this away, but let's try to find some idiot to buy it.
Well, if I had to err on one side of giving food away, I'd be on that side, because the big chains, they destroy the food, like they dump bleach over it when they throw it out, so that the homeless people don't get food for free.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it? And a lot of places, dumpster diving is illegal, and they often lock them up. And it's like, it used to be more accessible, like around 2010 or so. It used to be easier to actually find perfectly good food in the dumpsters that, was just either just barely expired or not even quite yet, and just perfectly safe. But they've cracked down on that, which is ridiculous. I mean, it might be one of those cases where, a few idiots ruin it for everybody. Maybe there were just too many people who just rummaged through the thing and then left a trail of trash or whatever. You know how it is. Some people are just can't be trusted with anything. But they should donate it or something. Like, just go through it and see what's still fine. Like you can't legally sell it anymore, but check that it seems safe and everything, and then just donate it to shelters. Or although, from what I hear, shelters are pretty terrible. But
see, the thing is, under capitalism, throwing it out costs very little, and giving it to people costs more, and so it's more economic to throw it out.
Right.
Capitalism is sociopathic.
Yeah.
It ignores people. It's all about money and numbers. Like, there's laws in place to protect grocery stores from any damage that their food could give. It's called the Good Samaritan Law.
Yeah.
And so the reason that a lot of the companies say, oh, well, we don't want them to get sick, and no, bullshit.
No.
You don't want to spend money.
Yeah. There should just be... They should put stuff in a separate container, like with a sign, take at your own risk. We take no responsibility for anything that happens if you take this food and eat it. But, yeah.
I could imagine churches picking up the food. That way they don't have to ship it or anything and then distribute it, because that's something churches could do.
Yeah.
Or those kind of people.
That will make sense.
Yeah, my church does that a bit to Cobb's Bread. I don't know if it's a very big chain, but it's a chain here in Calgary. Every single day they give all the stuff they have left over to one organization or another, and then they hand it out. So yeah, some stores do that, and I try to buy from stores that do that, but Walmart has cornered the market so much that It's hard to go with anything other than Amazon or Walmart these days.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that should happen way more. I mean, particularly bakeries tend to have pretty substantial surplus at the end of the day. I've definitely seen like some like pictures of some of the sheer amounts that they got to get rid of. From what I've heard, sometimes it goes to the farming industry to feed animals, but yeah, you can definitely do a lot with that to help feed people who need it.
A couple times my family got a box of donuts for free. Because we got one at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But to have that all go to waste is disappointing.
Overall, the sheer amount of waste is insane. I mean, we've also been fooled into believing that recycling actually happens on a large scale, and when you actually look into it, it's like, no, most of the stuff that's supposed to be recycled ends up in a landfill in one way or another. Eventually, it's horrible.
One statistic I heard is that using, how to put it, just the surplus of rice, lentils, and wheat, I think corn was included in that, just the excess of that could have fed all of China.
Wow. That's crazy.
And there's people starving to death.
Yeah.
So, the resources aren't the issue here.
Yeah.
The system that is in place. Well, to be fair, we expect to have the same selection in a store right before they close as when they open.
Yeah.
So they have to, like a bakery, for example, they're a good example of that. So they have to have their entire inventory ready and baked to go at the end of the day, because if you go there and they don't have my favorite thing and I was looking forward to it, sucks, I'm going to go to a different store that does have it. It's they have to waste the food,
right?
Because we expect it. So it's not just only the businesses.
Yeah, there's definitely consumer entitlement is to blame as well. That's true. Well, on a more positive note, before we go all doomer here, I got some stuff from Purple Heart Armory just recently, and these gloves here seem pretty neat. They kind of go a little bit in the direction of the Pro Gauntlets, but they're not quite as complex, and they're available at all. Unfortunately, the Pro Gauntlets are not available anymore. I'm guessing the company might be going under soon, or already has, or whatever. You straight up can't get them anymore, which is a real shame. But these seem almost as good. Let me see, what are they called again? They are on Purple Heart Armory, and they are called Gabriel finger gloves. First impression is quite good. Now, I'm a little bit concerned that it says not recommended for hard longsword sparring. I mean, fair enough, because they're not clamshell. Fingered ones always, like I said in the video, fingered ones are always a little bit more vulnerable. They fit well, seem comfortable, with one exception. There's kind of a weird spot right here on my first knuckle, where a hard plate is pushing quite uncomfortably on there, even when I just hold on to something. Something is digging into my knuckle there, which makes me think if I took a hit right on there, that would be very painful. But otherwise, pretty good. I'm going to have to try them out in sparring. I do like the way they're designed overall. Like there's a lot of intelligent design, if you will, that went into it. Like, for example, the fingertips here, you know, it goes all the way over. The thumb is protected very well. And there is this puncture-resistant cloth over it to prevent thrusts from going in between the fingers. And there's this piece here that protects the base of the thumb. So they definitely knew what they were doing here. Those are all vulnerable areas. And the hourglass cuff here can stretch. That's nice. So they seem really good, aside from this spot here. It seems to be just on the right side. On the left side, I feel it a little bit, but it's mainly putting pressure on the first knuckle on the right hand. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Maybe I can adjust it, but yeah. For now, seems pretty good. And I get something to mess around with, because I didn't actually have a two-handed messer for practice. That's a
Nice.
pretty wide spatulated tip. Normally I like to put rubber blunts on the end, which is, this is going to be too wide to fit one. So slightly concerned about that. I mean, it is spatulated. It should be okay. Yeah, it's probably fine. Flex is pretty good. And it's comfortable. Like, they definitely did a good job here with the handle scales. So this is the, I always call him Victor B because I can't pronounce his last name. But yeah, VB Kriegsmesser on Purple Heart Armory. Seems quite good, really. My only nitpick so far is that there was a spot, oh yeah, right in here. I'm going to have to take a file to it because everything here is pretty good, like rounded off, but there's like a spot here that's sharp where, you know, it wasn't filed. And I'm going to have to do that because I notice sometimes when changing grip, like this, that area just digs into my finger and kind of scrapes it, which wouldn't be an issue with gloves other than it might cause some wear on the gloves. And look at how many rivets were used. That's a lot of rivets. Usually it's 3. So yeah, pretty neat. I'm looking forward to trying that out and sparring. I just need more sparring partners, goddammit. It's a lot more difficult over here. Can't say East Coast in general because there's NYC also on the East Coast, for example. But here, the Halifax area is pretty difficult to find people. There's one small HEMA group that I've been going to, but it's only one once a week on Saturdays and sparring on Fridays, but it's so late that I can't make it. But it's just not that many people. Shame. I miss having so many people to practice with on the West Coast, but I miss Victoria anyway for a number of reasons. But that can't be helped. There's no going back.
It's hard to find a place that doesn't have a housing crisis at this point.
Exactly. I mean, you are already in the most affordable province in Canada at this point.
Yeah.
Like, aside from Alberta, the prices are nuts. I mean, Nova Scotia used to be affordable, and New Brunswick as well, even though I wouldn't know who would want to live there, in good old No-Fundswick. But either way, it's all gone to shit. I mean, the prices here have absolutely exploded. They've also gotten even worse in BC, which is absurd to even think about when they were already absolutely crazy. But yeah, it's as much as it's gotten worse here, it's still more affordable than Vancouver Island, sadly. Because basically, it's like if you want to buy something on Vancouver Island, it's basically 600K gets you a townhouse, maybe. You know, outside of Victoria, obviously. If it was in Victoria, it would probably be 800K plus. And if you want a freestanding house, it's well over $1 million.
That's insane.
I saw something in Victoria that that was just exemplified. So actually, let me see if I can still find it. That might, because I doubt it's been sold. I very much doubt that. There was like an absolutely hilarious thing. Let me see here. Basically, a cracked in for like, what was it? 800K or 600 or something. Let me see, where was that? I might still be able to find that. That was just too funny. I mean, it's sad, but it's also funny. Don't tell me it's gone. There's no way that's sold. Is there? Oh wait, was it this? No. That looks pretty bad too, but it was not as bad as that thing. I mean, somebody might have bought it after all, just for the lot, just to tear it down and rebuild. Maybe it was even more expensive than I remember. Essentially, it was like a total ruin. The house was like one side of it, one wall was literally burnt, and it looked like, I don't know what the hell they did. There was graffiti on the wall, and it's like a complete mess. Interiors, like, forget about it. Basically, it's not livable. You have to just tear it down, rebuild. Yeah, I don't remember if it was 600 or 800K, but yeah, something like that. Yeah, I can't find it anymore, so maybe it was actually purchased for rebuilding. Nuts.
Yep.
Common for it to be that bad?
What's it?
Is it common for it to be that bad?
Sadly, yes. I mean, I can just open this up here to show you. There. Move this a little bit. Okay. So 719,000 for something built in 1946, 1,444 square feet. And let me guess, it's in horrible condition. Actually, the interior doesn't even look that bad. I would have expected worse for that price, but still, that's a lot of money for such an old house that you probably have to put a lot of money into to maintain it.
Did you get a good rate on your mortgage?
Here, yeah. I mean, it could have been better, but it's pretty decent. I mean, basically, we pumped our pretty much all our savings into it, into the down payment as much as we could, and we pay less mortgage than a 2-bedroom apartment. So
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, the rents are absolutely crazy here anyway at this point. Where's all the really cheap shit? I remember there were some that were way worse than all of this. Oh right, I'm zoomed in too far. 600,000. What do we have here? Built in 1914. Yikes. 627 square feet. Wow. It's a shack. It's literally a shack. For 600,000. Oh my.
I'm pretty sure that where I am just 2 years ago, you could get a 2,000 square foot house in a nice neighborhood, 20 years old, for $400K.
I mean, just look at this thing. 600,000 for this. Oh boy. That looks great too. Built in 1908, it's even older. 855 square feet. Wee. It's a bit larger.
There's a line, we've crossed it.
Yeah. Who the hell, like, if you have that kind of money, if you can buy a house for $675, why would you live in that? I mean, I'm the first to say that Victoria is one of the best places to live in, just in terms of quality of life. It's a beautiful place. But it costs you an arm and a leg. And it keeps getting worse with the forest fires. Every year, BC is burning. But I still miss it, god damn it. Oh well.
I wish we had Victoria's weather.
Mm-hmm.
It's been minus 20 something this whole week.
Oh. Meanwhile, over here, it's been weirdly warm. Like yesterday, we had plus 10 degrees, which is not really what you would normally expect in early March. And then today, it fell back down to 0, but I think otherwise it's supposed to be pretty decent. Yeah, supposed to be in the plus otherwise. Torrential downpours, though. It was nuts.
It's been unusually warm, I think. It's been almost room temperature. Even at the end of February.
Wow.
Granted, I have moved south over my lifetime, but it's still more than I'd expect.
Yeah, it's like on the one hand, you're like, okay, actually that's nice. It's a much more comfortable March. But on the other hand, I'm also thinking, uh-oh, that doesn't bode well.
Like 30 degrees Celsius in summer. Or at least July.
And the bugs keep getting worse. Like Nova Scotia used to not have a big problem with ticks, but now they're completely rampant.
My cousin got Lyme disease from a tick while hiking in the Black Forest. Feel bad for her.
Yeah, Lyme disease
Such
is
a horrible thing.
Yeah. And the thing
is it treatable?
Nope.
That's a problem. And there's a vaccine for another tick transmitted disease. What was it? Encephalitis, I think. Which is, I mean, it's good to have that, but Lyme disease is worse, and there is no vaccine for that yet, at least.
Dang.
Yeah, unfortunately, all you can do is become a vegetarian.
Right. There's was it Lyme disease as well? There was something transmitted by ticks that gives you a meat allergy. Was it that?
I think it might be. Yeah, no, I just know her diet became completely unenjoyable. She was only able to eat really dumb things. It was basically like, well, I don't know. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zekin says hit nearly hit 70 past week in New York. 70 Fahrenheit. That's over 20, isn't it?
Oh, I think it's about 20.
About 20? It's 21 Celsius. Holy hell. 21 in March? That's crazy.
Yikes.
God damn it.
So as for mosquitoes, we have these things in our backyard where it's kind of poison, but they come to eat it, and it really almost solves the mosquito problems in the backyard.
Yeah, the mosquitoes can get pretty wild here.
It's called something like Spartan.
I've heard good things about those thermocell mosquito repellents that they have at Canadian Tire, for example. I don't know if they have that brand in the US too, but it's basically like a miniature version of those mosquito coils. Seem to work quite well. Because yeah, those definitely also get worse with the different climate. They love it. All the horrible things love it. We don't. It's one of those things where I wish we lived on a planet that doesn't have this kind of shit, you know? Wouldn't it be nice to live in a world without mosquitoes and ticks and black flies and horse flies and scorpions and all this other shit?
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. I would rather take our bitter winters than all the shit that you get if you live in a temperate climate where it's nice to live. Because it's nice to live for everything, not just you.
Yeah, that's a downside. As said, the winters have been getting milder and the bugs have been getting worse here, so it comes at a cost, for sure.
I sometimes wonder if we're ever going to do anything about climate change, or whether the apocalypse needs to happen before something changes.
Honestly,
because it will happen.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like it's just the typical human tendency. Like if shit's really on fire, and it's basically too late to do anything about it, but it's so pressing and so immediate that like you can't deny it anymore. Then the panic starts. It's like, oh no, we got to do something, but no, it's too late. You missed a chance. You know, it's too little, too late. And it's like they've known about this since what, the 70s at least?
Yep.
But it's gotta come to that extreme where, you know, crops are failing on a large scale and it just places become more and more unlivable, and then at some point it's like, oh shit, maybe we should pour some more energy into it.
Maybe if the politicians actually did their job instead of just using it for political theater.
Yep. And just, placating the rich donors.
And it feels like they want to be partisan on everything. It's like you can't have just something we all agree on. It's like, whatever the issue is, we have to pick a side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, when you have... actually, you know what? Before I go on a political rant, I'm just going to stop myself. I have a lot to say about it, but politics, meh. It's generally better when it's like in a smaller, confined space, so to speak, where it's just us few people here. But I generally like to stay away from it.
It's a good rule of thumb.
Which, by the way, I'm not one of those people who are like, I'm apolitical. I feel like, and this is the last political thing I'm going to say, I swear. I feel like the statement I'm apolitical is just kind of burying your head in the sand and just like, well, I have enough privilege that I don't need to bother with it right now. Or at least I think. But it's like politics affects everything. Your entire life, your livelihood, your rights, everything, right? How can you be apolitical? I mean, yeah, you can, in the sense of, I'm just going to ignore it. I mean, and fair enough. I often have that impulse too, just because it's frustrating. Whenever you look at it, it's so depressing that you're like, I don't even want to, I don't even want to mess with it. But unfortunately, it doesn't just go away and leave you be.
I've been there.
Yeah, I used to think that a no politics rule was just burying your head in the sand, but then I realized I can't really do anything about these issues that I'm getting upset about. So why am I spending my free time getting angry about something I can't change? So I want a space where we can just talk about dank memes.
Yeah.
And pointy things. I don't want to have to think about an orange Cheeto doing dumb shit across the world.
Yeah, I mean, if you mean that by apolitical, then I definitely get it. And sometimes you just have to take care of your mental health and just try to get away from the doom scrolling, and yeah, there's only yes, you can argue that there are things you can do. You can write your local representatives and everything for all of that does. You can try to get people organized and everything, but it's in order to have any hope of having even a slight impact, you got to do it on a pretty large scale. It becomes almost a full-time job. You got to really pour yourself into it, which on top of the daily grind is just not all that feasible for a lot of people. So instead, we're just left with lesser evil voting for the most part.
Yeah.
Which does very little. Essentially, almost nothing.
So I've got some nice pussy on my lap right now.
That sounds arousing.
She is the best of flames. Oh, yes. He loves the scritches. this Mr. Mime just won't stay in the fucking Pokeball. Dumb shit.
Yeah, that's one of the sources of sanity regain, I guess. Pets and partners and good friends and all that. Things you can... we got to get all the support we can, right? As said at the start of the stream. And looking back at the stream, I'm kind of like, oh shit, it kind of turned into a lot of doomer rants again. It's just really hard to avoid because it's just so pressing.
I mean, it's
just
something you're thinking about all the time. Yeah. It's
how can you not? How can you not think about it? How can you not worry about, where the world is headed and livelihood and, whether you'll be able to afford food in 10 years or even less. It's just, yeah.
It seems pretty normal to talk about the world, and that's just kind of where the world is.
I think so, and I don't want to be just... I don't want to just always pretend that everything is great and it's all good. Let's just focus on the positives. If you want to be real about it, then yeah, there's a lot of shit, It is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, we always have games for escapism and all that. And I do not subscribe to the notion that gaming is completely shit now. It's like, no, yeah, sure, there's a lot of exploitative stuff and there's shovelware and this and that and the other, but there's still plenty of great games that keep coming out. Apparently, I just saw in the news something about Unicorn Overlord, which is coming out soon. I don't know if you heard about it, but it's a very promising RPG, and apparently they ran out of funds, and now I guess the CEO of the company is like paying out of pocket to finish it, which is commendable. Unusual to see that.
Breath of fresh air.
Let me see. Does it mention here? Okay, I can't find that story now, but yeah, it's supposed to come out. Oh, today? March 8th. Huh. Neat. Didn't realize it was today, actually. Now it's not on Steam. It's Xbox, PS4 and 5, and Switch. So if we want to play it, it's gotta be Switch. Let me see. It's probably gonna be $80, isn't it?
If Switch games would go on sale, I'd have bought a Switch so long ago.
Yeah.
But they don't.
There are sales sometimes, but Nintendo's website is so much worse than Steam. If you want to browse the sales, you can't even browse by genre or anything. It's just like, yeah, here's a long ass list of the sales. Have fun digging through it. It's kind of shitty.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the sales are decent, I guess. I see some 65%, 32%, 60, 33. Yeah, not bad. But worse than Steam in general, I would say. Let's see. So, for a moment, I was like, Okay, $60 could be worse, but that's US dollars, isn't it? Canadian, it's gonna be a little bit more. Hmm. 80, yep, that's what I thought. Oof. $80, come on. I don't want to spend that much on a game. Can't justify that. It's way too much.
Yeah, I like to shoot for a dollar per hour.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm trying to justify an expensive game. Because there's games I've played for like 1,000 hours that I've spent $60 on.
Yeah, that makes
And I
sense.
think that's a good deal. But, you know, if you're going to play it for $5, you're not going to make... It's not worth $80 for that.
Yeah. There is a demo. So, I guess I can just try that later. We'll see.
What game is this again?
Unicorn Overlord.
What kind of game is it?
It's strategy, like tactics RPG.
Okay, like Final Fantasy type deal?
Yeah, kind of like Final Fantasy Tactics.
Okay, that sounds pretty
I've heard good things about it, and the presentation is fantastic. So I guess I'll just try out the demo. Would be nice if it was on Steam, but you know, Switch is okay, I guess. I also I've been wanting to. I finally, after all these years, I finally got Dead Cells. I don't know why the hell it took me so long with the Castlevania expansion, and I might actually play that on another stream pretty soon. Because it's I started playing a little bit, and then I was thinking, hey, this will probably make for a good stream, so I might do that. And I also have a video planned of what's it called? Wrath, I think, that retro FPS. Yes, Wrath, Eon of Ruin. Seems pretty good so far, even though I'm not a fan of that graphical style, because it's a sort of like late 90s style. It kind of looks like, I don't know, Quake 2 maybe. Feels more like Doom, but looks kind of like Quake 2.
Quake was the first shooter I ever played.
Yeah, the very first shooter I played was actually Wolfenstein. On a friend's computer. In like, let me think, 94-ish, 93, something like that. But when did it come out again? The first one. Yeah, it came out in 92. Yeah, I must have played it in 92 or 93. Back in my day, when games were heavily pixelated.
Yeah, it came out near when I was born, lol.
Yeah.
I think the first game I ever played was Loom, or maybe it was Monkey Island. One of those two. Yeah, I remember installing it on some floppy disks.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh man, it's only 3 floppy disks.
Yeah. I remember playing, what was it, Might and Magic 3? 3 and 4, I believe, on like a stack of floppy disks. It was like 10 or so, I think.
Yes. Good old technology being shit. We had a time capsule one time. It was kind of fun. It was, you know, those things that you bury to be opened up in 10 or 20 years. Somebody had put a Future Shop catalog in there,
Huh.
which is kind of funny because Future Shop went out of business.
Yeah.
And their camera section had these like huge over the shoulder type of form factor,
Right.
and they were utter trash. So I'm like, dang, 15 years makes a lot of difference in technology.
It really does, yeah. I mean, I remember as a kid we had the old Polaroids that made instantaneous pictures, but they were absolute shit. Like they were tiny and you could barely see anything. And it's really literally the only reason to do that was so that you have the picture right away and don't have to hand in the film to be developed. And always sometimes you would just get the pictures back from the photo lab, and it turns out like half of them are just black or white or whatever because they were underexposed, or then like another quarter has like a big blurry index finger covering like a third of the picture, and oh boy. It was rough.
And then you could totally mess up on the, forget what the term is, something and burn, when you're trying to edit the photo while you're developing it. You're like holding things over top of it to block the light from getting to that place.
Right.
Flash and burn.
Yeah, sometimes it wasn't your fault as the person with the camera. Sometimes they just messed it up while trying to develop them.
The store can just, you know, do it and it's fine. But I mean, like if you're trying to make a really good picture, especially when you're trying to sell, not only do you have to have the exposure right, focus right, have your finger off of the thingy, but then you can also fuck it up when you're doing it, because it's like having one shot at editing a photo to look like you want it to look.
Right.
You know, because the stakes are high because you only have one shot.
And woe is you if you accidentally hit the latch and open it up and a bit of light goes in and just ruins the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. And also video cameras, of course, were horrible. I mean, some of the stuff, even in the early 2000s, some of the cameras were an absolute joke. It was like 144p, or you literally cannot even tell what the hell is going on. It's so pixelated and such a mess that why bother? Good old potato footage. Aha, we have some OGs here. First game was Pong. Yeah, I'm not quite that old. The very... Let me think. What was the very first game I played? It was... I think it was at an uncle's house who had... something. It must... I'm trying to think. It was not an Atari 2600. It was even older. I think it was... I remember playing some version of Pac-Man. That must have been... I must have been like... between 6 and 8. Something like that. Maybe younger. I can barely remember that. I remember it was definitely something Pac-Man, but not Pong. Not that far. it's kind of amazing for me to imagine being part of a generation that, grew up with, say, the PS2 or Xbox or whatever, or even after that. Like, imagine the first console you ever played as a PS3. Like, that would be a very different experience, as opposed to starting almost all the way at the beginning and seeing everything just very slowly develop and become less and less primitive until you get to the point where you can actually see what the fuck is going on in the game. I mean,
Yeah.
just the jump from 2D to 3D, it was such a big deal. Like, playing the very first 3D game back then, it was like mind-blowing.
I think my very first 3D game was Mario 64.
That's a big jump.
Yeah. I remember playing a Sonic game on the Nintendo 64 and it sucking turbo ass.
There are some horrible Sonic games, yeah.
Like, there's been no good 3D Sonic game, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think most of them are pretty trashy. But yeah, 16-bit to 32-bit. That was quite a revelation, even though in some ways it was a downgrade. It's basically like it made for an advancement in gameplay by adding the third dimension, but graphically, arguably it was a step back because early 3D graphics were hideous, absolutely horrible.
Yeah, I remember playing Ocarina of Time and having the fairies' boobs being just a single polygon, just one pyramid.
Yep,
And
same
I'm like,
with,
oh, that's so hot.
yeah, same with Lara's pyramids. Back then I was like, ooh. That's pretty sad.
What about you, Oakshot? Which games did you grow up with?
The very first was Lego Star Wars on a computer that was very boxy. And then that was just the very beginning, but mostly it was the Wii.
So we must sound like a bunch of old men, like very old games back when Pac-Man and Mario. All of
My
that.
parents have talked about technology before then, but I've never experienced it myself.
Because there's no reason to, because it's all shit.
Yeah, it
There's
really
no
hasn't
value
aged
in
well.
going back to the days of Pong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have actually got some older games that we brought out that my dad has showed me. And we played a little bit, but yeah, for the most part, we don't really go back to the old stuff.
Yeah. I have a lot of nostalgia for the old stuff, but even so, some of it just don't even really want to go back to it because there's so many quality of life improvements and like not just graphics, but like everything really has taken major strides ahead. So just going back to it is jarring straight up. Let's see here. Speak about getting old. My colleagues are N20, just 30, and they don't know certain movies like Die Hard or The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That shocked me. Yeah. Which, I mean, something as iconic as Die Hard you would think is still pretty well known, regardless of generation, but it's easy to say because, to us it was such a big deal.
I've only heard of it.
Yeah. There's so many movies. Like, you can't possibly catch up on all the classics.
Yeah, see, people not having seen old movies is a lot more surprising to me than not playing old games, because old games are shit. Old movies, they're still good. Like, I watched, what was it? 13 Angry Men, 12, 10, 11 Angry Men. I don't remember what the number was. But it was a black and white movie, but it was excellent. Because it's just a really good movie. So, like, the things that make a good movie are still true. So, but yeah, like you said, there's just too many to actually catch up on. All you would have to do is watch, and then even then, there's just too much.
What's fun about this is that my dad didn't like the cartoons that was out when I was a kid, and seeing them now, I understand. So he had he bought the DVDs for the cartoons that he watched when he was a kid. So I had He-Man and Voltron, Thundercats, instead of like SpongeBob and what else?
Yeah, the cartoons currently are unironically a advertisement for the toys and nothing else. If the toy doesn't sell well, they actually stop the show.
Yeah. I mean, in all fairness, Masters of the Universe was also a glorified toy commercial, as was Transformers and most shows. But yeah, I'm not sure how dependent they were on the toy sale to keep going. I haven't really looked into it, but it was definitely a big part of it too. And it's kind of jarring to rewatch some of the stuff because, oh my goodness, the dialogue is so bad. The way the characters talk is just pure cheese cringe. It's I can't even handle it anymore. It's rough, with some exceptions. Like I think Skeletor is still hilarious, but the way He-Man talks is oof. It's like cringy dad trying to appeal to the kids. I don't know. That's kind of the vibe.
Hello, fellow kids.
Yeah, how you doing, fellow kids? And just, I don't know, dialogue used to be so stilted. Like, the way they talk is like, nobody talks like that in real life. Like, not even remotely. I feel like it's become a little more down to earth. Of course, dialogue is always a bit artificial, but it used to be weird.
I've gone back to some things as like, this was better when I was a kid.
The way you remember it is also quite a bit different from how it actually is when you revisit it. Sometimes it's best to just let it rest in your memory.
Well, also as a kid, you might not have it be established in how people talk.
Right.
And you're still learning, so it might not sound that unusual.
Mm-hmm. But then you wonder why the other kids call you a nerd when you talk like that.
Yeah. For the longest time, I didn't know that the way they talked in Star Wars was odd.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought it was just fine, but then I found out people thought it was weird, and then I started looking at it again, and like, oh, yeah, actually, yeah.
It is, yeah. I mean, of course, the way people talk also changed. Like, things are not radical and tubular anymore, and all that. Now it's kind of mid, and whatever else. I mean, I already feel a little bit out of the loop with some of the stuff that the kids are saying, and that's with the internet. Back then, you didn't even have that, so people would be super out of touch with how the younger generation talked.
I remember when I was in high school, I really used the lingo a whole lot.
Yeah, I feel like Clint Eastwood holding the cup of coffee when I hear young people speak now. You know the
Yeah.
one I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know. And yeah, me too sometimes. I really get that. I totally turn into the Clint Eastwood meme when I see TikTok compilations. It's just like, what are you doing? It's just surrealism, I can only guess. It's so weird and disjointed and random and just doesn't have any discernible meaning, to me at least. It's just a bunch of gobbledygook, so to speak. It's just, why are you doing the things that you do? Why is it just a bunch of clips of random pieces of dialogue poorly dubbed over that you horribly lip sync to, and then some weird dancing and music, and then that's it? And like, and what was the point? What's happening here? Huh?
Never even downloaded TikTok, so I just don't get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I refuse to download TikTok.
Yeah, I can't blame you. I try to get into TikTok because I figured, hey, I'm already making shorts on YouTube. Might as well put them up there too. But oof, I don't know. I couldn't compete with that level of just turn your brain off and just go get along for a very bizarre ride for 5 seconds. Because like a lot of the stuff is so short. It's like, it's not even a minute. It's like 10 seconds or whatever. And then I realize that's just about the attention span that the people have who are on there. It's scary to just see the analytics and be like, yeah, so after 15 seconds, 10% have already tuned out. It's like, what? What? You can't even make it through 10 seconds?
This is what
Yeah.
we've named the generation because you kind of do end up in groups like that of understanding it or not understanding it.
You were kind of cutting out. Can you say that again? It's why we what?
We kind of name generations and split them into groups because there are patterns in understanding those kinds of things or not.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
It does make you feel old sometimes. But, you know, every generation goes through that. Every generation's like, what the hell are the kids doing now? I don't understand this.
Yep.
I didn't think I would be part of that. I had this naive belief that I would try to keep up with the times and not be like a detached old fart, but I don't know, I'm kind of already moving in that direction. I don't like it. It's already like, I'm gonna shake my cane at you, and damn kids.
I'm already starting to feel that.
Yeah.
Oh, it also feels like the world is moving faster than it should. That might just be growing up.
Kind of. Yeah. Yeah, I do feel like trends used to last for longer. You know, like now the zeitgeist is just moving along at warp speed from one thing to the other. Yeah, kind of.
Saw an interesting graphic of a study that showed the length of time that a joke is funny for people. And for example, boomers will think something is funny for months and months. So you'll go on any, can't remember which company it was. Let's just say Denny's. Something Brad's wife, the cheese Cheesecake Factory, something like that. They're still making Brad's wife jokes, and it's been years. And then millennials are even shorter than that, and like the kids nowadays, they're like, funny for about 2 days, and then already on the next thing. So it's not directly related to attention span, obviously, but it's the similar kind of idea, just how long you stick with something.
Right. Just like how quickly memes age. Like sometimes I use memes that are a couple of years old and think nothing of it, and people are like, "Oh, what was this? It's lame." Okay, it hasn't stopped being funny to me, but okay. I mean, they're fucking cat memes and owl memes from the early 2000s that I still find funny, and people would be like, "What is this ancient shit? Get out of here with that."
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I can't imagine being, that short with how long memes last.
And also, I mean, if you're really using like early 2000s memes, aren't they so old that the kiddies have never seen them? So to them, it's new. And so shouldn't they be like, "Oh yeah"?
Trick them with such old shit that they think it's new.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing. Like, you can't show them stuff that they have seen before, but that's some years old. You gotta hit them with the stuff that's so old that they've never even seen it. Yeah. Dig out all the O'Reilly owls and whatnot. And yeah, memes used to last longer. Absolutely. I mean, the badger mushroom thing, like we definitely used to refer to that for years on end. But now it would be like, that was last month. You're so outdated. Get with the times, Grandpa.
Yeah.
Funny how that goes.
Even if the meme isn't in use, I think it's still fine to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's relevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cleverly done or whatever.
I mean, sometimes people dig up stuff from like literally 1910 or whatever, like a joke or what we would now call a meme, and it's absolutely relevant still.
There are some things that are just human behavior.
Yeah. Absolutely. There are like Victorian photos of people dressing up their pets, like giving the dog a hat and a pipe and then taking a picture of that. It's like, it's the same shit that we do now, just a little bit harder to do and not as sophisticated.
That's great.
Back then, they would have to telegraph each other nudes.
Exactly. I mean, there are like nude basically as long as you have photography, you can dig up some really old erotic pictures. Like, oh yeah, of course. Before that, they drew it, and then when they had cameras available, they took pictures. When they had video cameras, they filmed it, and so on. That's just what people do. The one thing you can always rely on is humans being horny. Like 100%, that's what defines culture.
I've seen a news source make a joke about that. It's like, oh, there's new AI features. Guess what they're using it for?
Porn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time. I mean, just was on Wednesday. I posted a screenshot of all the thought bots on Twitter because it was just funny. They do disappear fairly quickly, so I guess YouTube does kind of crack down on it automatically or whatever. But when I upload, like the first couple of minutes, like it's just all like titties and asses and like in the profile pictures and all like super positive, supportive messages. It's like, what the hell? It's the epidemic of the thought bots.
Yeah.
And it's smarter too, because that's with the positivity, you're more likely to actually, the whole thing about catching something with honey. Yeah. Apparently, the idea is that a bunch of lonely, horny dudes are like, oh, there's a supermodel saying nice things to me. This is my chance. And then they get roped into some scam or whatever. There was also a story not too long ago about some scammer girl in Japan who was just doing this very deliberately and kept, kind of pretending to become someone's girlfriend long distance, and then came up with elaborate stories about how this and that happened and she needs money and all, and they would send her a whole lot of money, and then eventually she would ditch them and move on to the next sucker. It works. I mean, not in that case, because she was actually caught and got into legal trouble for it.
Did they charge her of being butthurt? Like, what did she do wrong?
Well, because it was a scam, basically. So the lies that she told, and squeezing money out of them, it's still against the law.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. I was just thinking about the Sims sending money to people and thinking that it should get them intimacy.
Oh yeah, that's kind of fair game. All the OnlyFans Sims and all that. It's like it's kind of sad, but it's their choice, it's their money. They can do with it whatever. And the fact that they have this attitude of put money in, get sex out. I mean, that's already pretty shitty. So it's hard to have much compassion in that case.
John Oliver did a story about pig butchering. I'm not sure if you saw it. It's about a scam where some random person would message you for the first time being like, hey, is this John from the Walmart I met yesterday? And then you're like, no, it's the wrong numbers. Oh, whatever. And then they start chatting you up and building rapport and talking about how they're from the same village as you, and then they get you to download this investment app, and it's on the Play Store, and it's got 5-star reviews from like 10,000 people, and they're, oh yeah, this is good. And then they give you advice on how to invest that money, and you do that, and then you see your stonks go up, and then you try and cash out, and it's fake.
Right. It's gotten really elaborate. And also, that's another problem. So many fake reviews. Like, you can't even go by that anymore. Like, I used to, whenever I get like a sponsorship offer for like this and that game, I used to go check it out. Okay, what ratings does it have? But unfortunately, you can't even go by that. It's, at this point, I'm just pretty much categorically, is it a mobile game? Fuck off. Because like there's a 90% chance it's exploitative. And you wouldn't know, because however they fake it, buying reviews or bots or whatever, but you can't even go by the reviews quite often.
Yeah.
It's like the recent Skullhala video. Everything is sus now.
Exactly. Absolutely. This happened to some local Belgian celebrities. They sent catfish nudes and got blackmailed. See, this is another thing I never understand. They're just sending nudes. Like, why would you ever do that? Like, especially somebody that you don't even know well. You're putting it out on the internet. You do understand that anything you put out on the internet can find its way and can be leaked and whatever can be used against you. It's why is this not common knowledge and common sense?
Well, we're kind of born into something to trust people who have things similar to us,
right,
as humans, and so they know exactly how to build rapport. they have manuals that they go through on what things to say, how to say them.
Right.
Oh, talk about your job and your family, and talk about how similar they are, and how you remind them of your grandma, and give them compliments, and they know exactly how to manipulate people. So
Yeah.
you think you know this person because you've shared your life with them, and it sounds like they've been really genuine with you, and then it was all fake. It's some Russian dude
Yeah.
who's 50 and he scams you. So like we it's kind of easy to say how could they fall for it, but
They know what
it
they're
also
doing.
kind of makes sense because
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. They have a lot of practice. They know what to say.
Yeah, that's true.
And people like to give each other the benefit of the doubt. You don't immediately assume that the guy talking to you is a scammer.
Yeah, that's at this point. That's pretty much where I am. My default assumption is they want to screw me over. Whenever I get a lot of emails with like whatever offers, and like my default assumption is you're trying to screw me over, aren't you? And I have caught people twice trying to send me a virus. You know, both times I found it and didn't double click shit, but put it through the virus scanner and everything, and did my due diligence and all that, and in both cases it was very convincing. Even for someone who is paranoid about these things and is skeptical, they still managed to make me think, okay, this is probably legit. But even if I think it's legit, I'm still gonna check everything.
Yeah, it's the safer way to assume.
Yeah.
Assume everything is sus,
Yeah.
and you'll be right most of the time.
Yep, unfortunately. It would be nice to be able to trust people, but you can't. That's also why, even when it comes to stuff like having editors or people to manage a channel or whatever, like it would save me a lot of time and it would probably improve things, but I'm not willing to give anyone even partial access to the channel. Like, yes, YouTube has tools for that where you can like set up a certain rule where people only have access to certain things and not the entire account. But no, I'm not even going to do that. I don't like the idea at all of anyone having even partial access. It's like, no, fuck off. I don't trust you.
Yeah, they caught you with that, right? That one time.
That was what they did on Facebook the one time. Yeah, that was exactly this kind of thing. It seemed like it would be like partial access, but no, it ended up being full access, and they were able to fuck me over that way. And yeah, I was already not exactly the trusting type before that, but that made me even more paranoid. And now it's like, no, it is. You'll never get me again. Everything is sus.
Yeah.
It's sad, but that's. I mean, we live in what has been called a post-truth world, and yeah, I have to agree with that. There's just so much misinformation and lies and scams and everything. Like, what the hell can you trust? And the amount of time you have to put into cross-referencing and double-checking everything is a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there are some things, small things you can do here and there, and that's one of the things I really like about the Discord here, for example, because there is just a barrier of entry, so to speak. The paywall does limit who gets in there, and yeah, we haven't had any. I mean, there's this one crazy guy the one time. You remember the time traveler?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the time traveler. Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, and sometimes some individual people have some issues with one another or whatever, but there hasn't been like a epidemic of spam and trolling left, right, and center the way you usually see. It definitely makes a difference.
Yeah, that guy was crazy. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was either it was a super dedicated troll who just pushed it way too far, or he was just genuinely mentally ill.
When did that happen?
A couple of years ago, I think.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, maybe like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, there was
Okay.
this dude on the Discord who kept insisting that he's a time traveler from the future, and people, myself included, told him like, "Hey, can you stop trolling? Like, nobody believes that, and whatever. Like, chill out." And he refused. He just kept sticking to the story and kept doubling and tripling down, and got into fights with people, and eventually was like, well, I gave you several warnings. You refused to listen. You're gone. And that was the only time when I actually removed a patron and just kicked them off entirely.
Yeah, they were also making up shit about your family.
Exactly, yeah. It was
And I was like,
completely
dude.
unhinged.
Yeah.
Maybe
So,
in time
you know.
traveling, an alternate universe where time traveling wasn't a thing,
Yeah.
and
Some people have issues. Whether they just are so desperate to get attention that they do anything and everything, or if they actually believe the crazy shit that they're babbling and have like delusions. Either way, don't want to deal with that. It's a problem case, just you gone. But that's exceptional.
Hasn't happened since.
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Overall, it's been quite a good experience. If I had just done this Discord like completely open to anyone, oh boy, you can bet your ass there would have been a lot of trouble on the way.
YouTube comments are sign enough.
Yeah. Right. Just looking at YouTube
So
comments.
easy to make a bot these days.
Yeah. It's rough sometimes. Yeah. I mean, these days I don't even know, because I just look at the highest rated comments, because I'm just done with all this garbage. For way too long, so many years, I tried to read everything. I mean, obviously not everything is not possible, but I used to try to keep up as much as possible, and eventually I just got so tired of all this garbage, like all this trolling and like straight up abuse, and there's people being absolute assholes for no reason and cannot be reasoned with either, and just verbal diarrhea. I mean, not verbal, I guess, in text, but you know what I mean. And it's just, no. It's just, sometimes you gotta make the decision that your mental health is worth more, so screw this.
Yeah.
The downside is that means if there's a bunch of crap, then I also don't see it too moderated and ban people or whatever. But I mean, I don't like to ban, really, in general. It's just in extreme cases, sometimes you have to, but yeah. On the upside, that stuff generally gets buried anyway, because I think the default is usually sorted by best comments rather than newest. So you have to kind of go out of your way to switch to newest to see the garbage, right? I mean, on some channels, it's still bad. There are definitely channels that have such a toxic community that even the highest rated comments are awful. That is fortunately not the case here.
Yeah. Some people are afraid of AI for like, oh no, what if it becomes sentient? No, that's some bullshit.
Yeah.
AI right now is just a really, really expensive text to speech. And the quick predictions of your keyboard. That's all they are. They generate conversations, but the problem is the polluting of the truth. Like you were saying, it's a post-truth era where the bots will make up papers and reference them.
Mm-hmm.
And you have no idea if it's true or not. And then, like, even if you try to find the actual truth, there's so much dissenting information that it becomes difficult to trudge through.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the pollution that I am afraid of.
Yeah. It's
It's
probably going to get worse.
nowhere near sentient.
No.
It doesn't have any malice towards us. It
No.
just, it makes it impossible to believe something.
It's also an interestingly unexpected issue. We used to have this idea that there's like the Turing test or whatever, like a way to figure out if and when an AI is self-aware and all that. But now it turns out that shit can be simulated. Now you can have something is like, we know by how it works, we know that it's not self-aware, but it can kind of give you the illusion of being self-aware. So we have something that can fool us into believing it's a person, right? So it's not even that simple.
Yeah. Turing test isn't good. It's not a good test.
No.
It's been passed for a long time now,
Yeah.
but they're not self-aware. They're not sentient. It'd be kind of important to know if sentience and self-awareness is a biological thing or if it can be simulated.
Right.
It'd be really good to figure that out quickly, because a lot of important things are being decided with AI right now, and we don't really want to have, oh shit, no, they were totally self-aware and we didn't believe them.
Yeah.
Or, like, because we humans like to exploit things and
Yeah.
like
that
to
run
come
us
up
to
with
waters.
excuses for our exploitation being justified.
Yeah. And
So
the problem with that is now that we know that algorithms can pretend to be a person and be self-aware and everything, now we're skeptical, and so that makes it even more difficult to then find when an AI has perhaps become sentient, right? Because now everything is muddied. Everything is just hard to pierce because there's so much bullshit. There's so many layers of bullshit you have to peel back.
yeah.
Particularly when even the engineers don't even fully know. Like YouTube is a good example. I don't think any individual person working for YouTube has really fully understands the algorithm. Like even the people who run this shit just don't really entirely get exactly how it works.
Yeah, same thing with computer chip design.
Right.
It's so heavily dependent on the software that translates circuits to transistors to doping masks, and very few people actually understand how to even do it. And no one person there knows how to the whole process. So
Right.
like we're already at the point where it's a black box. We push a button and things happen, but we have no idea what's going on inside.
Yeah. That's also what would make, in case of apocalyptic collapse, what would make it so difficult to reconstruct everything. Like the ideal is basically the way it's portrayed in the anime Dr. Stone, where like this one genius who knows everything, absolutely everything, is able to reconstruct society because he understands Like how from like physics to chemistry to engineering, he knows everything and can just reconstruct things, can build a battery from primitive materials and then all kinds of crazy shit. It's like, no, this would never happen. One person can, it's impossible for one person to know that much. And that's why you have specialists and highly specialized specialists, as dumb as it sounds. But the more complex everything is, the more specializations you need to all work together, where, you know, the left hand doesn't know what the right does. Or maybe the more precise way to put it would be the left hand doesn't know how the right hand does the things it does. And yeah, if everything becomes kind of fragmented and you don't have all this centralized coordination anymore, then how the hell are you supposed to reconstruct things when you can't even get all the hyper specialized people together in one spot that are needed to make this thing happen, right?
Yeah. Society collapse is difficult to recover from.
Mm-hmm.
I think we would just have to start over from the Bronze Age.
Mm.
Maybe the Amish people can help.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. Yeah, they could help us restart not quite that far back.
The kind of interesting thing happened. Don't know which company it was. I think it might actually be GitHub, but they recorded every public repository and put it in a vault. And the storage media was actually really interesting because spinning disks, they demagnetize after a couple years if they're not powered on, and magnetic film strips, you kind of need specialized equipment that runs very specific algorithms to even figure out what's going on. But they did a format where it's like Braille on a long strip of plastic. And the pattern is big enough that you can see it with a magnifying glass. And there's instructions on how to read it on the box of each spool. And it can last basically indefinitely. They say like 100,000 years.
Wow.
Without it decaying, because it's made of, like, I don't know, polycarbonate or some shit like that.
That's a smart way to do it.
There's that stuff. Sorry, what?
Yeah, I was wondering about that before. Like when you want to preserve things for the future, so many media are dependent on the technology of the time. Like if you can't just lock up some CDs somewhere. Like whatever remains after a catastrophe or who knows what, some kind of collapse, they might not have electricity and CD players and whatever. Yeah. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, the data was encoded, I think, in things that kind of look like QR codes, I think. Yeah. Sorry I interrupted you, Oakshot.
Happens. I've often wondered about reverse historian kind of things. Making things for the future historians.
Yeah.
Or like, and how would you make something that lasts?
Yeah.
And isn't reliant on electricity and whatever, CD players or whatever.
Yeah.
Especially the internet, considering just what a vast amount of information is on the internet, that is absolutely not catastrophe proof in any way. Just an extremely vigorous solar flare could put shit out, or EMP or knows what.
Yeah. We're always very close to complete disaster. It's a really lucky that it hasn't happened yet, to be honest, with how easy it would be to have something be very bad.
Yeah. Plenty of bullets have been dodged in the past.
Yep, like, it's got, the number is unfortunately really high for number of really close calls for nuclear war.
Yep.
Like, oh, they sent a rocket up to do some kind of study on, I think, the polar ice caps or whatever, and it just so happens that the rocket to get it up there kind of looks like an intercontinental ballistic missile. And so people are like, oh shit, they're shooting an EMP, and we gotta take it. No, it's just a science vessel. Or you're just having a cloud reflect your radar signal, or you incorrectly assumed that there was a nuclear war already, and you would have caused one had you used your nuclear torpedo or whatever. Crazy, because humanity would be gone at that point.
Yeah. Also, sometimes just if you end up cut off from information, it can be disastrous. There was this famous case of a Japanese soldier who went into hiding and didn't know that the war was over, and I think it was like 20 years or so he spent in the wilderness. And when people tried to find him and get him out of there, he thought that was the enemy trying to lure him out, so he wouldn't even come out. That's just nuts.
And all too easy to do, to be honest. Yeah. I don't know. Crazy shit. It's easy.
Yeah, when humans are involved, there's so many ways for shit to go south. I mean, not just humans. It's not like animals don't do disastrous things sometimes. It's just on a smaller scale, for the most part.
It is one thing I envy youth. Just a general optimism.
Yeah.
And hope for the future.
I remember that.
Boomers are, I hate my wife. Millennials, I hate my life. And the Zoomers are like, lol, Thanos car.
Yeah.
They're just, laughing at dumb shit that's funny. And it should be like that. And I miss not having to think about societal collapse.
Yeah, me too. We used to have so much optimism. And it was so much sci-fi utopia in the 80s and 90s, where it was like, in 50 years, everything is going to be fantastic, and all these problems will be solved. And it's like, you sure about that? Yeah, we thought so. We thought we would live to see a sci-fi utopia, but it seems less and less likely by the day.
Yeah.
I think lots of things that we could do is just not cost effective, and then of course there are lots of things that could be done and are financially viable. It's just greed prevents it.
Yeah. And I mean, there's also the idea that, well, maybe a sci-fi utopia will happen, but we're still too early. Like the Star Trek scenario where things had to get really bad before they got better. I mean, when is World War III supposed to start in the Star Trek timeline? Isn't it like 2030 or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Let's see.
Wouldn't be a surprise.
Oh, 2026. In 2 years, yikes. Supposedly, oh yeah. It wasn't just World War III. It was. No, wait, hang on. Yeah, World War III, 2026 to 53 in Star Trek. So, yeah, we're almost there. Wee.
Yeah.
That's fun. So, in other words, if the Star Trek timeline happens, if I survived World War III, at the end of it, I'd be 71.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're in the sci-fi dystopia at this point.
Yeah. Shadowrun seems more
Stargate.
likely than Star Trek. Although no, Shadowrun is too cool. Like, yes, it's corporate dystopia, but there's also magic and there's goblinization and all this crazy shit. So no, that's already too exciting. I mean, still sucks for wage slaves, but yeah. What seems more likely? Frankly, even RoboCop Detroit doesn't seems somewhat better in some ways than what seems like we have coming.
A perspective that I've come to use often is enjoy what you can while it lasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
It might go down, but have fun before the world ends. I don't know.
Yep. Of course, the downside of that is that's also kind of how we got there. Every generation being like, oh, whatever, kicking the can down the road, ain't my problem. I'm just gonna enjoy what I have. But at this point, what else can you do, right? You know what? I'm gonna rename this to the Doomer stream because that's been kind of what we've been talking about most of the time. Seems appropriate. Anyway, before we go on the dark path, I gotta record another video and get some more editing done. But even though the topics have mostly been kind of dark, I still enjoyed the conversation, so thank you for hanging out.
Yeah, it was fun.
It doesn't always have to be all, cotton candy and butterflies. Like, sometimes it's good to just kind of pour our hearts out about shitty things. And, there's value in that too.
Yep. All right. Good luck with your recording.
Thanks. All right. You
This
take
was
care.
fun. I look forward to more.
Yep. See ya.